Hello, everybody. Today is episode 2 of my kind of Phoenix studio featurette kind of thing, and today we're hanging out with Zachary Rippy at Sound Signal Recording? Sound Signal Recording.
Audio.
Audio.
Yeah.
My bad. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
You changed the name though, right?
Yeah.
It used to
Yeah.
be
It started out Solar Signal Recording. I don't know. It didn't really make sense.
You didn't like it?
No.
Didn't vibe with it? Well, that's
No.
cool.
That and it was nice to like distance myself from the early work.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Kind of like, I've had that same thing. I mean, I used to do, like Resurgent Recording was my name for like 4 years.
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
And then I kind of let that die, and then I loosely go by another name now, but I end up being known by my name anyway.
Was that when you did the Column 3, the first full length?
Yeah,
Still
all that
Resurgent,
stuff
right?
was
Yeah,
Resurgent in those days. And then
remember
today, I try to get the name Old Hat Analog in circulation, but people just end up knowing me by my name, which is fine.
Oh, okay.
Either way works. But yeah, I totally understand like the whole rebirthing thing.
Yeah, it was like changing the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
New name.
Cool. This is like the second time we've ever actually spoken to each other, though, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I've heard your name for at least 2 years or so. You know, like your name always came up. We have a lot of mutual friends.
Facebook.
A lot of mutual, but in the musician world too. Like a lot of bands that I've worked with, you've worked with.
Oh, yeah.
That already know that know each other indirectly, and I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of work with kind of heavier, more aggressive music.
Yeah. I kind of come from the like hardcore DIY punk scene out here, I guess.
How does
that's
that
right.
influence your kind of view of recording?
I mean, I guess I started off with that, like, I guess recording. I went to the conservatory, which was one of the few places that still taught tape, or primarily tape recording back then. And I was on this in utero kick. Like, I just got into recording. It was like a pretty, I guess, just iconic record in general. And so I was going through that, and I was like, Steve Albini is the best guy ever. Oh my God, he recorded all these cool bands like Nirvana and Jawbreaker. And Jesus Lizard and stuff that I really liked from, the like underground scene, more from the live world. Like, I guess I really liked how he talked about portraying bands live and if bands can play live. I don't know, trying to just capture that behind microphones and recording, I guess.
You're talking about Steve Albini?
Yeah, he talked about that. Like, they put it into our heads in school also to try and get it right on the way in, the importance of mic placement and that type of stuff. So I guess I just really approached it from this live playing technical aspect, which that everything I heard him talk about on the internet or read about or whatever kind of pointed towards that. So I guess I started off that way, but as I had figured out my own way of recording or figured out what actually worked for me and my constraints and what I had to work with, I kind of steered away from the everybody playing live all the time or trying to do everything with no clicks live all the time to just getting it right, I guess. But yeah, I guess I started off looking at it from the live sound perspective because I do live sound. I played in a band for a little while. We didn't do much recording. We had done like one demo, but I'd played more shows than that. And then after just going to shows and doing live sound, I guess I hear bands playing live all the time. Or when I think about it, like when I hear recordings, I'm trying to place them in a room playing together, I guess. So I guess for my personal preference, if I can't do that when I'm listening on headphones or something, I generally am not a fan of that, I guess. I don't know. So I guess I approach approach everything from a live standpoint, whether it be recording or actually just mixing a live band.
Is it your preference to kind of have a band play all at once together, and does that correlate with heavy music specifically, or does it matter what genre?
I guess it's always easier for the bands because most of the bands I work with aren't. They're not just in a band. They're most of the time they have day jobs, and the band is something that they get to do on their off time, or it's their hobby, or it's what they're just practicing for them, or practice bands for the most part, or something like that. So the way that they're most comfortable is just playing together in a room, hearing each other. They're not really used to the drummer's not used to just listening to a click track and playing along or something.
Right.
So I always found that with most of the bands I had, it was just easiest if they all just had headphones on and could hear each other, and then I just let them play in the room, and I try and capture it myself and stay out of the way.
For me, when I record heavy bands, I've always found that it usually works out better that way because you kind of force the band to kind of say, oh, like we're stepping on each other's toes. Because I don't know how, that's the one thing I really want to talk to you about is like heavy music is a very frustrating genre to record because it's a battle of the mids. Which you've kind of already brought up with how you like to monitor. And I find that if I let bands kind of freely stack on their own without having them do it all at once and realizing right away that it's messed up, they usually, it's like this overabundance of information where everybody wants to be right in the middle. You know, nobody's like free to kind of take the space in. Does that kind of same thing for you or help you at all? Or how do you kind of approach that problem with heavy music?
For the most part, like I was saying, I try and stay out of the way. If there's a problem, though, and it's stopping just overall progress, like if I'm set up and the band still isn't content with just them playing in the room, then I'll try and step in, because by that point, you know, I've spent some time setting up mics, or if I'm ready to record, it's been a little bit of time. So then I'll kind of, I don't know, step in or have some somewhat suggestions from like, before we start, because every band wants like, you know, this guy wants the bass tone, or the bass player wants, you know, the bass to stick out and sound like this record, whereas the drummer wants, you know, it to sound like this record. And everybody's ideas of what the end product should be ultimately are a little bit different.
Right.
But trying to make everybody at least like 80% happy, if that's cool. And so I give the bands like, just before we start, I asked all of them to get together and be like, okay, if you all had to get together and you had one like desert island record that you would just use for a reference for this, you don't want it to, we're not making that record, you don't want it to sound just like it, but just characteristics or things that you guys all can agree upon, that this is a pretty good representation of where we want to go with what we're doing.
Right.
Try and ask for that, and then just steal characteristics of things that they're probably not even thinking about, like, I don't know, other parts of it that I guess I'm hearing with compression or EQ that's just, this part's sticking out here, or maybe this is why they like this guitar, because it sounds, I don't know, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's good advice. I never thought of, I mean, I always ask musicians what they like, but I've always done like, everybody give me answers.
Yeah.
And I think that totally makes it kind of like a stupid, like, oh, duh. You know, like we have to find common ground, because that's another issue that I've always run into is like the drummer will want a drum sound that is kind of counterintuitive to what the guitar player wants as a guitar sound. And then the bass player comes in and he just wants to be really, really loud and have all the low energy, you know? And then like, oh, but now that messes up the kick drum, and then that's gonna mess up the guitars. They're too detached, and now where do my vocals have to sit kind of thing. And that's why I've always had a hard time with heavy music, and why I've kind of taken a break from it, because it's like, it's so frustrating dealing with it.
It's also mind-numbing to just sit and listen to like blast beats or something for 3 days in a row.
Oh, right.
It's hard to hear, what's even happening anymore. I definitely noticed that coming from the live world and the type of bands I work with, I got to be careful with my ears, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
That's always something.
I bet. I mean, I'm sure
it's very. I'm just super cautious about that, because I have some tinnitus already, and I'm only 26, so. I want to stop that now.
Yeah. For sure. So you run sound at the Nile, right? Anywhere else?
Yeah. I did for a little bit at Celebrity Theater, but I was more like a stage tech. They have a bigger crew there and stuff. And I haven't really done too much over there. I'll cover as like stage manager once in a while. But for the most part, kind of me and this other guy out here, Brian, do kind of all the sound upstairs at the Nile. So between that, I'm busy enough with that in the studio here.
And he's on, you tour sometimes too, because he's on tour right now, right?
Yeah, he's on Warped Tour right now. I believe he's doing a band called Fit for a King and Silent Planet. And then I tour with a band from out here called Gate Creeper.
So when you're mixing like live sound, do you, I know that like I don't do nearly as much live sound as you and Brian do, but I've done a little bit, and I know that one of the things that kind of triggered a light for me was EQing.
Yeah.
Having to constantly EQ to different rooms and different spaces that, you know, because in school you're a crafts grad. I went to MCC. In school, they definitely teach you the safer side, like be subtractive and be minimal.
Yeah.
But in live sound, when you have to set up everything on the fly and, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, you get to work in the same room
fun.
most of the time, but when you go on tour, I'm sure like you run into this problem where it's like, oh my God, tonight, what am I going to do? This room is insane sounding, and you have to like really whack out the EQs or really change your gain staging and stuff. And are they separate ways of thinking, or do you
No,
use
pretty much the way I think of EQ is the same on both sides. I guess I'm not really looking for anything particular going in. I just try and like I don't ever use presets or like have any signal chains that are already set up or anything. I just like try and sit there for 1 second and listen to what's actually happening and seeing if I need to do something rather than every time having a subtractive EQ going into a compressor and then another like boosting EQ afterwards, just like on every single channel. But in the live sound world, I'm always just initially trying to find any problems rather than always trying to boost the high end and the kick to get this sound or to get what I normally do. Like I work at the Nile, and it's a very it's an older room, and it's just a lot. There's a lot of stuff you have to work with.
It's a lot of block, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a brick rectangle, and the ceilings are 30-something feet high.
Yeah.
And it's just not a very pleasant room to mix. So it made me like really quickly. I had to get used to wild cuts and just just making it happen. Sometimes we'll have a touring package with 3 or 4 bands on it, and then a promoter will add another 3 or 4 local bands on. And that then, depending on what I am left with from after the tour package sets up, I have to kind of just make the local bands happen around their stuff. And when you're 6 different bands worth of backline deep and everybody's using your gear, and you just have to remember how to repatch 7 different guys' input lists. You get used to moving quick than thinking fast, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, both of them I try and I have the same type of things that I'll go to, or just most of the job, I guess, to me is just troubleshooting. So there's a few like just real quick things that I normally go to, or tools, or just steps that I follow both ways of just the proper way of making a microphone replicate sound. It's interesting. It's fun. It takes kind of, I guess, both parts of what I did or started doing and brings them together. There's a lot of other like live session YouTube channels, like the Audio Tree one and other stuff like that I guess I just thought, hey, I have all of the stuff to do that and the ability, so why not? And it was also a fun new challenge to try and do video. Most of them, or at least now, I try and do most of the stuff myself. I have my friend Nick who helps me out, and he assists on recording and video stuff with me. But yeah, I try and do everything myself, and it's fun because I like the challenge, I guess.
Yeah.
Like doing a full record with people, like engineering, mixing, and then bringing it to the mastering stage is quite a feat, I guess.
It is.
It's hard to do all things and not get tunnel vision and get stuck on one part, and to keep everybody happy through the entire process, and to have it, I guess, done or the process happen in a timely enough fashion that people are still interested.
Yeah.
Is always a challenge.
No, I think we're kind of lining up right there right now, which is why I'm kind of jealous of your videos, because they look like a lot of fun. And I coming into getting through the summer now, like I've been a part of not a whole lot, but more full-length projects than I've ever done before. And they're all full-length projects that have been going on since last year. Oh wow. And so like definitely each one is suffering its own different version of like getting stuck and having that tunnel vision, So I watch your videos and I look at those, I'm like, man, that'd be cool just to like have a band come in, just do it, and it's done, and it's like it exists, and it's like moving on to the next one, because it's fun. And I have another buddy too, that same thing, like where he's like, if you get stuck on it for too long, it's like you get to that point of where you'll never be happy, because you've let it sit there.
So if you just sit there and say a word over and over, it doesn't even sound like it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound real. It sounds like you're just making stuff up.
Yeah.
But that's definitely cool. I've been really liking those videos, and I think it's cool because I don't know of anybody else in Phoenix that's really kind of tackled that and consistently done it.
Oh,
so I definitely hope that you keep doing it. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I have a couple more set up. Doing one actually next week with a band out here called Grey Gallows. Yeah, they're fun. Most of the time, I guess Grey Gallows and then actually Jay's band Living Receiver were the first ones from out here that I had done. The other two, the first two were touring bands that were coming back through Phoenix that I had met on tour. And when they were coming back through, I saw that they would have a Phoenix date, and they were playing one of the venues that I worked at, and contacted them ahead of time and kind of told them what I was doing or what I wanted to do, and asked if they wanted to do a video. A band from Vegas called Presagers did one with me, and then another one from Portland called Glacier Veins. And so they played the venue that I'd worked at, and so I did sound for the show, and then they stayed here with me that night afterwards. I have a place bands can stay here too. And then we did the video. One of them we did the video the next morning before they left, and the other one we did the video actually before the show. They showed up here at 3:30, and we were done before 7 o'clock, and they were gone, loaded into the venue at 7:30.
Oh wow, that's way quicker than I thought it would.
Yeah, no, both of them were less than 4 hours for the whole thing.
No, that's awesome. They sound great. That's a lot of work. And,
thank you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
the first one had help, but the second one, it was just me. It was fun doing the audio and video.
No, that's cool. That's cool. And then finally, you just built this place.
Yeah, the second part of the control room here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you kind of go through that process?
I guess I just built myself out of being in the tracking room with everybody. The tracking room's roughly 15 by 20 with some, for the most part, it's rectangular, but the walls I offset as much as I could while still maximizing the space I had in here. This was originally an RV garage, so it's got the taller ceilings than a normal one. But I originally divided it in half because I still had more vehicles and other stuff, so I used this still for storage in the garage. And then I had the back half of it was basically a tracking room with a booth, and I just set up that time I had a little rolling Guitar Center RTA Build-A-Desk that I had kind of built myself out of, and then gotten a bigger desk. And when I got this one and some new gear and stuff, it just didn't fit in that room anymore.
And I'm sure it's nice being out of the room that the band's playing in.
Yeah, like you were saying with live sound, this console here used to be downstairs at the Nile, and it's got some stereo bus issues, so can't really use it for live sound, but every channel on it, the EQ is before the direct out, so there's essentially 20-something Midas pre's with EQ on it.
Oh, nice.
So I'm using those, and when I was in that room, it wouldn't fit, but either way, it's so much harder on headphones to try and make EQ decisions when the drums are happening right next to you, But out here now, it's worlds different. I'm actually on the way in, processing just about everything now, trying to minimize anything in the box. It's totally new.
Awesome. So do you mind showing us around, showing us some of the gear and showing us some of the space?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So you were just going over how you built this new desk, or did you?
No, I actually picked this up on Craigslist. It was a good find.
It's a giant desk.
Yeah, I got it for basically nothing. This guy who was in an apartment, he actually fitted in there. It was custom made by some guy out here, I guess, and the guy from the apartment was moving and couldn't fit it in his new place, and I guess he was on a time crunch, and I watched it on Craigslist. The price dropped from $700 or $800 down to nothing. So I went and gave him an offer he couldn't refuse on the last day and picked it up. But it comes apart, so I set it up myself. Here, it's all the way down to little IKEA pieces almost.
And these racks are a part of the desk?
Yeah, and they all come apart. It's 3 separate, 5-space racks that are all held together in the middle, actually, here by these anchors.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, it's a cool layout that I've never really seen a desk quite like this before.
Yeah, round and slightly bent. It's supposed to be ergonomic and, I guess, limit the initial flat sound reflection of the, the rail is offset from the actual table here. But yeah, I'm almost out of rack space.
Yeah.
So I'm over there now.
So
I'll
what do
bring
you?
the sidecar back sooner or later.
So what do you use to, like, if you're tracking, what do you use to go in? Like, what are your main pre's?
So for the most part, first I have the Mac Tower down there. It's a 2009 that I've been upgrading every couple years or so. And I'm using Pro Tools 11. The main interface is the Apollo there that is actually clocked from the Apogee. And the Apogee ensemble is the extra 9 to 16 channel ins. And I mainly have preamps with a lot of DBX compression and some gates on one side, and then just one EQ. But for the most part, yeah, I have outboard pre's, got the 4-channel Cytex, the 2 Golden Age Neve 73 copies. Then the Midas here that I was talking about earlier is essentially just 22 EQ or pre-EQs that I use direct in, and I mean I could sum down to some of the mono channels, which I've done for like room stuff when we do those live sessions or something. But for the most part, yeah, I can't do any like actual routing with it.
Do you have any that you specifically like on certain things, or
yeah,
I really used all the time for one thing?
I love those DBX 160s. You were talking about heavy music before, and I can just hand somebody a 58 or an SM7 and then crank that ISO 1 and either use 1 or 2 of those and chain them together and go to crazy, and they really take the yelled or screamed vocal really well.
So you'll go out of one into the other one?
Yeah, just go right back to, well, a lot of times I'll do my main vocal is probably that ISO 1, I'm guessing, is my nicest pre. I think it sounds the best. So I'll go that to the 160 and then maybe EQ it, just a tiny bit for fun on the Midas. But what I really do is drive the pre on here again. I'll put in like, because I'm not sure what amps it's hitting if I bypass it when I go to the line in or the mic in, but either way, I can still drive the pre from either stage and get more saturation from it, and then I'll run that back into the other 160 and tame what I'm doing with the EQ and the drive on the console afterwards.
Oh, interesting.
And then vocals are done. Like I don't really do much else afterwards.
That's
same thing with a snare.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Like you'll do the same double thing?
I probably won't go back in afterwards, because later on I'll try and parallel compress and be a little bit too much. But yeah, the initial snare, I'll do one of the outboard pre's and then hit the 160 and then into the Midas and then bring out whatever I like that's happening in that compressor with it. And you can kind of drive it a little more. It's fun. But it can, when I was first learning how to use it, I definitely overdid it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
like, oh, I've never had this much analog saturation. Oh my God, let's throw it on every dynamic mic that I'm using on this session. And
anytime you just get new toys, you overuse it, you know.
Yeah.
But that's always a necessary process to figure out what it's going to do and how it does it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Definitely. It's fun.
And then you're monitoring. You've got, looks like you got 1, 2, 3, 4 options.
Yeah. There's so these outside I have the Atom F7s. That I guess are my main active monitors. I guess I like the low end that they have, and then the ribbon tweeters are nice. I feel like they're lacking a little bit of mid-range though, and it's just different having active to passive pairs. So I also have the NS10Ms, the old studios. I think they're like 80s make, not the originals, but. I use the NS10s most of the time. For mixing, I rarely use the Atoms. They're mainly for people listening. They like more of the highs and real lows.
Fuller range kind of thing.
That's there.
One of these days, someone's going to have to convert me to the NS10 mystery.
I feel like I'm losing hearing, especially being this close, and I notice I just get cranking with that the volume. 6 to 8 hours into a mix day, and yeah, I'm sure I'm cutting my own head off every day, but I love them.
Yeah, they were set up at another studio that I used to work at a lot in Phoenix, and whenever I'd switch to them, it was always fun because it was basically like I just called it the snare check.
Yeah.
Because you switched to the NS10s from whatever else you were using that was more full range, and the snare just immediately came directly to like your face.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of fun to hear that, but beyond that, I was never able to like really make any decisions.
I love that like 200 to 400 representation that they have. It's great, I guess, for me to find how the not the real low, but the low mid, the kick and bass are going to work together. Like if I'm gonna bust those together, hit another compressor with those for fun. The NS10s, I'm just able to hear everything that's happening in that normally gross mid-range area. They're, probably besides those, the other thing I use the most here, and like the biggest tool would be that, probably that SE VR1, their ribbon mic. Those two things, like desert island usage, yeah, the NS10 and then that VR1 mic, those are probably the only things that, I do every single session.
And then what do you use these little, these like computer?
Oh, these are old Sony computer speakers that I had from a long time ago that they're from my brother's old Sony Vaio that he got in like the year 2000. And I've just been listening to music on them for, like 17 years now. So it's just a good check. They're single driver speakers, so I don't know, it's just a decent check. And then these are the shit cans that, they're 99 cents at Goodwill. There's no power. I'll plug it into any different headphone amp. They sound absolutely terrible, but if you can hear the bass in the mix, like it happens. It's another one where like, if I'm getting the low end harmonics that I want or something to come out in the actual mix, it's a good check.
I'm curious because I know what's under that little blanket over there.
Oh yeah.
Do you use that at all?
The first session I did here, I used it, and I haven't since. Nobody I'm recording really wants to take the time, I guess, to do it. And it's only an 8-track machine anyways. It's
8-track half-inch, or?
Yeah, half-inch. It's an MX5050. I bought it from the guy who bought it new, who had an old demo studio. It came with a Tascam M512, and he had the manuals, and everything came with it. Yeah, it's still super. I mean, I haven't done it justice like the guy who originally had it. It was like plastic wrapped and stuff.
Yeah.
But I got it originally with this used 456 that's kind of shedding a little bit, and so I learned just real quick how to use it, I guess. But then I had to repair the head, and it wasn't worth it anymore. And we were going to use it to bounce all the drums and just do the drum tracking for the first project I did here. But they ended up moving, and we ended up just not finishing it here. But I got it running and learned how to use it for that session, and since I'm just waiting for somebody else who wants to take the extra time to do it.
No, for sure,
It's
drums
fun.
to tape, especially heavy music. Drums to tape are really really fun.
Just the drums, or it'd be fun like if somebody wanted to just buy the tape and sit in for an extra time to just like bounce the stems to it.
Yeah,
something.
Even that, just get that extra
nice.
saturation.
Yeah.
That's totally cool.
Yeah, just get a couple different tape styles and reuse them, and just print my mixes with it would be fun.
So what's your tracking room like?
It's another essentially square. This is the first room that I built. I had come from the construction and like band practice world, so it's a pretty dead room. It is my live room, but it's not a very live room. It was more so I could record drums like 24 hours a day.
And not upset neighbors?
Yeah, and my neighbors don't know, and I've never had any problems with people complaining or even know that I run a recording studio right next to, like in this little residential area.
Is it adjustable at all, like acoustically, or is it pretty fixed?
I mean, I just move stuff around. I don't know, there's so many holes in the walls now where I all the Auralex stuff I have in here I got from a couple big like Craigslist deals, and I just try and listen around and just try and negate any problems that I have that I've built for myself in here. Because it's all the walls are offset, so it's kind of a rectangle, but it's not. So it's somewhat slanted this way, and this wall actually has a bow in it.
Yeah.
On the other side of this wall, there's one of the old RV doors. So the reason I can't have it all the way out anyways is because there's a
the rail
rolling
system?
door. Yeah, rolling door up there that the wheels hit the side. So I had to kind of build it in anyways. So I tried making that just more friendly for the acoustics. I don't know if it worked.
No, it's. I mean, this room feels super cool.
It's dead and it's fun to be in. And I've learned how to use it. There's definitely some issues that it has, but I know how to use it and it's fun.
Yeah, once again, that's the most important thing.
Not having any restrictions on when I can work is like the biggest tool I think I could have with this. So yeah, I guess that was the main priority.
Did you build these?
Yeah,
traps?
everything. The room itself and everything in it, I built. My uncle helped me frame and hang the rock and do the insulation. So it's not really a one person job, but everything else I did myself. Like well, he helped me hang the doors too. He'd be mad if I didn't say that. Yeah, all the like trim, painting, design, maintenance, yeah, all the stuff. Actually, yeah, putting the framing together and building it, finishing everything. The control room I did all myself. But yeah, the first room I had a little bit of help. It took me like 6 weeks to get it going, and then over the course of like 2 to 3 months, I had like every band I knew, I just offered them free sessions to learn how to use it and find where the problems were. So there's some pictures of, yeah, how it all started, and I ended up going with the absorption, just kill it kind of idea.
And you originally, this was where you were also at as well.
Yeah,
so
I had on this side, the desk used to be over here. When I was installing the power in here, I was like, yeah, no, 3 circuits, that's fine. And I only have, there's one in the booth, there's one right there, and there's one here, and there's only those plugs for those circuits, so I knew what was on it, and I could kind of troubleshoot when I had issues, but I needed like 3 more at least. I don't know what I was thinking.
Are they all like 15 amp or 20 amp?
They're all 20s, yeah,
20?
320s. And then for the other side, when I did the control room, I installed 130 for the desk separately. So I tried to like think about all that stuff going in, but I guess I didn't really know how much I would need, you know?
Yeah.
So initially, yeah, I had just this 20 amp circuit running my entire desk, and then the air conditioner at the little split unit, because I didn't think about that either. I built it in January or March, and then May came around, and I was like, man, it's getting really hot in here. Like, oh my God, I didn't put ventilation, I didn't do anything, oh no. Like, and I had left these, here you can see here, there was windows that were, yeah, pretty much everything you can just take off on the walls. But I have windows, there's one on that side too that I wanted to leave in for natural light and stuff, and I just built these like slugs here.
Are these filled with anything?
Yeah, the Roxol wool.
Cool.
The whole room actually is 6 inches of the Roxol wool. The inside has 1 layer of 5/8 rock, and the outside actually has 3 layers of 5/8 rock. So the walls absorb a lot, but it also keeps a lot in, just in general. Like, no, my neighbors can't hear me, but all of that energy stays in this room. So that's why there's so much absorption everywhere. But yeah, these, I wanted to keep these windows here, because initially my thought was I was going to be able to put a window AC unit in or use that somehow to vent it out, but the garage had a swamp cooler, and that was my initial thought. So I'll just open the door and open the window and use a swamp cooler, but that did not work. It was not a good idea. Anyways, yeah, the whole thing was a pretty interesting learning experience.
No, yeah, I think it looks super cool. I'm sure.
Thanks.
I mean, your work sounds good, so I think it paid off. And
Thank you.
yeah,
I've had a couple other people come in that just need to record drums. It's easy to, yeah, the only like room that's open 24 hours that somebody can just get 16 channels of drums in real quick, because a lot of people nowadays have their own interface. They can do their vocals and guitars and all that.
right.
But yeah, it's a nice place to come have some fun, I guess.
Where do you typically record drums? Just like a spot?
Yeah, this spot over here, because it's the only room without like a big corner. It slanted the whole wall, and then it kind of rounded it off. So we played drums. I mean, it's still a corner, but like not a real corner we play out of. I tried to diffuse behind it. And so hopefully all the drum sounds going that way, and I'll mess around with room mics. I really like the mid-side pair, because I can't do much stereo stuff. I really ruined that whole side coming off from the drums. So yeah, it's interesting. This room, same thing. There's this wall here, there's a couple extra sheets of drywall to keep the booth separate from that live room. But it's the same thing, 6 inches of Roxol wool in between 1 and 3 sheets of 5/8 rock. And then there's also 2 inches of that Home Depot soundboard. That's what all the black velvet is. And then there's also the Auralex stuff on it.
Yeah.
To make it as dead as possible. Because I mean, the room's tiny, but I can still record an 810, like a decent 810 bass cabinet in here, and it's not too MIDI or rumbly or gross. That's why I was saying my uncle would be mad if I didn't say it, because everything had to be, I read this, I didn't even read the whole book. I read like the first 28 pages of this like '80s book that was, so you're going to try and build a budget recording studio. And I started off, and it talked about how everything should be airtight. So yeah, all the walls on this side also have this foam lining on all the floor and the ceiling, and the doors have like rubber seal that drops on the bottom and seals that. And all of these were like custom ordered solid core doors that are like the lightest possible door I could get that was still solid. And then everyone's double walled as far as from the control room to the booth. So I have like the little sound lock here. It's like 2 doors, which really isolates. I mean, yeah, you can play a full drum set, or a whole band can be playing in there, and we can sit out here and have a casual conversation. It just sounds like maybe there's a boombox in the next room or something.
Yeah, seeing the pictures of you doing this build out, and I thought it looked super cool.
Thanks.
It looked like it, yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's really benefiting your process here, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having us come out, Zach.
Josh, thanks for coming out.
It's been an absolute pleasure of
Yeah.
checking this place out and kind of walking through your process, and definitely
Thanks, man.
getting some advice from you on heavy music, because that's something I've always wanted to know.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.